Welcome to another episode of Risk. This is another 6-player fixed card game which is being played with public beginner plus ranked players. Judging by their stats, all of them should be relatively low ranked besides obviously the black player, and maybe the pink player as well. His win-loss ratio is relatively high, so he just doesn't have that many games in overall played. And probably the lowest ranked player in this game is blue. He has 7 online games in total played, which 2 of them are wins, and 5 of them are losses. Then when it comes to yellow and green, they have a lot of games played but their stats are very average. The yellow player wins every 7th or 8th game he plays, and the green player wins every 6th game he plays on average. While in comparison the black player wins every 3rd game he plays, and the pink player wins almost every 2nd game he plays. And here are our winning percentages, with the blue, black and pink players looking to be the most intimidating ones, with the pink player having the highest winning percentage of my opponents. Though the pink player doesn't have that many of the games played comparing to the black player, and when it comes to blue player he has fewer than 10 games played, so that's a factor to take into the account as well. Then the yellow and green players seem to be low-end opponents in this game who have the lowest winning percentages. So what I could say from these observations is that to increase my chances to win, it would be the best to eliminate the pink and black players as long as I have the opportunity, and then the yellow and green players are the ones who I should be very careful about. They are the ones who are most likely to throw the game, so I should try not to annoy them too much if possible, because they could accidentally ruin the game for me and themselves. And in case you were wondering what are the odds for each of us to win based on our winning percentages, then here you go. The closer the number to 1 is, the higher probability for that player to win is. So what we can say from the odds is that I have the highest chances to win. Then the pink player is in the 2nd place, the black is in 3rd, the blue player is in 4th, the green player is in 5th, and finally the yellow player is in 6th. But all in all, keep in mind that these odds and percentages are based on our winning rate only. Obviously the fewer player games you play, the higher win rate you are supposed to have, and also the players who play low-ranked players are supposed to have a better win rate as well in comparison with the players who try to play with as high-ranked opponents as possible. So all of these odds, percentages and statistics I share in this video are just for the entertainment purposes only. But I would say that it will be very fun regardless to see how close or how far the predictions are going to be comparing with these odds, whether the odds will be accurate to the player placements or not. Anyways, getting back to the game, I was the 6th player to go, meaning that I was able to observe the whole situation and overall seeing what continents each player is going for. So with the blue player going for South America, with yellow Australia, with pink Europe and with the green player North America, the last suitable continent for me to go for was Africa. Though besides a lot of other players' troops being in Africa, the blue player put his army to North Africa rather than to Brazil. So if he doesn't move out his army, then I guess I will have to be without a continent at all. But at least I will be not the only one without a continent. It seems the black player is not suitable to go for any continent at all. And then who knows how aggressive the blue player is. It's possible that he could prevent the green player from capturing North America, and also could invade the pink player into Europe. So besides the blue player, the yellow player is pretty much the only one who is supposed to hold a continent, as long as he has enough troops to guard it. And what I see is that the blue player is not going to be a neighbor friendly neither to me nor to the green player who is going for North America. He doesn't want to get stuck in South America and eventually would like to expand to South America bordering continents which are Africa and North America. Though it seems he will be fine of the pink player holding Europe, which he, having the opportunity, didn't invade. Though he probably knows that the pink player could retaliate and that could go wrong for him. But on the other hand, it seems he isn't afraid neither of me nor of the green player, with us going for Africa and North America respectively, when we could decide to crush these South America guarding armies in order for us to capture the continents for ourselves. So anyways, as you saw, the pink player was invaded by yellow, and the pink player having a set recaptured Europe with a long retaliating to the yellow player of crushing his 6 troops army he had left near. So for the blue player to start a conflict with the pink player before trading in a set, obviously wouldn't have been a great idea from that we could see. However, if he trades in a set now, then he could decide to invade the pink player into Europe, because with the pink player already trading in a set, he wouldn't be able to properly retaliate. Though it still could possibly be not a great idea, because while weakening himself but preventing another player from holding a big continent, he could give the advantage to the players who stay outside the conflict. And looking to his case, with him preventing me to get Africa and the green player from getting North America, obviously we would be interested of getting rid of him, so while he wouldn't be likable neither by me nor by green, to weaken himself probably wouldn't be that great of idea, even if preventing other player from holding a big continent. But on the other hand he makes me and the green player to not like him by himself. It is his own choice to set up his armies in the way which would prevent me from capturing Africa and the green player North America. And then with the blue player not helping out the yellow player to attack pink, for the yellow player it wouldn't make that much sense to target the pink player and waste a lot of troops on him by himself alone, as it could just make both of them to be eliminated from the game. So if the blue player isn't interested of attacking pink, then that's not much of purpose for the yellow to attack pink alone, with the green and black players' armies being near, so they could possibly eliminate the yellow player in case he would make himself too weak. And then obviously, if the small continent players don't have the initiative to attack a big continent player, then the no continent players have even less initiative to attack that big continent player. They are not going to do the dirty work for the small continent players, as it would be even more risky for them to get eliminated from the game soon if they decide to mess up with a big continent player without getting any extra continental troops by themselves. So with the pink player successfully holding Europe, it will come to him himself which player he wants to eliminate, which player he thinks would be the biggest threat, or which player eliminating he thinks he would increase his chances to win the most. And that player could be any 5 of us, so obviously to not let the pink player hold Europe would be in the best interest of all 5 of us. However, while one players want that the dirty work would be done by other players while not being involved themselves, other players might not understand of how much of a threat the pink player could be, or might not even know about the mutually beneficial alliances which by attacking another player in the way which would be equally beneficial for all of them without any of these allied players taking the advantage over another one. This game is without the alliances though, but besides that the same exact thing would be possible to be done as long as the players are aware of that and are willing to do that. And instead of it calling a mutually beneficial alliance, we could call it mutually beneficial work or so. It doesn't that much matter, the main principle stays the same. Though the more players in the game there are, the more harder it could be to achieve it without nobody taking the advantage of it. Like if the yellow and blue players would decide to attack pink, then they wouldn't be guaranteed that green and black would help them out, so blue and yellow could end up being in a disadvantage. But even if 3 players would decide to team up on pink, then with one of them starting to attack pink player not as much, the other 2 players will automatically be discouraged of attacking pink as much as well, in order to not give that 3rd player the advantage while highly wasting troops by themselves. And wow, that's awesome! The green player has just crushed the blue player's biggest army. And what I was thinking is if the green player crushes blue's army, then I having a set will finish taking blue out, taking over South America or Africa. And with the green player not even touching South America, I think South America will be the one. After him capturing North America, I wouldn't like for him to additionally take over South America as well. The green player didn't invade blue into South America even though he easily could, so I assume the green player won't mind me of capturing and holding South America as long as I won't be causing any problems for him as well. If I had to guess, the green player should be much more friendly when it comes to letting others get continents. Basically, if the green and blue players were words, then they would be antonyms to each other. Anyways, I knew that not being able to trade in a set in the same turn after taking blue out, I could possibly be in some sort of risk to get eliminated. But one thing I didn't want this game to stalemate, the blue player might not necessarily retaliated back, and another thing, it was a great opportunity for me to take over South America and finally have a continent as well. And besides all those things, isn't that fun to get rid of the player who was trying to prevent you and another player from getting a continent, to see him getting eliminated first. And what I'm actually thinking right now is to take over Africa as well. Because why not? It doesn't hurt to try. If I'm not being able to hold it, then whatever, but at least I could give it a try to see how other players would react to it. The green and pink players are getting 5 extra continental troops each, so I assume it might be fine with them of me getting extra continental troops by additionally capturing and holding Africa as well. And another thing is that I wouldn't like for the black player to get there. I would like for him to stay being without any continent as of now. And not only because if the green and pink players decided to fight each other, then I would be an advantage by being the player who gets the most troops. But also because the black player is probably the only another high-ranked player in this game, and what I noticed is that high-ranked players in a game with low-ranked players quite usually will go after each other, will try to eliminate each other if they have a proper opportunity, paying the most of attention to themselves while not that much caring about lower-ranked opponents. And I'm not sure what kind of a player the black player is, whether he would like the most that I would get eliminated next with probably only me being another high-ranked player, or if it doesn't really matter for him which players get eliminated next, or maybe even differently, he would like that I will stay in the game because it would increase the chances of the balance of the game to be properly sustained, without any of the players very foolishly giving the game away for another one. So I don't know, but I wouldn't really like to risk it, because in my experience other high-ranked players in a game with lower-ranked players usually want to get rid of me. Anyways, with a blue player getting eliminated, here are the new odds. And again, it's only based on our winning rates, not on the position on the board or so. Anyways, with the pink player being the only player who held a big continent back then, it was up to him which player to eliminate eventually. But also he could have not necessarily decided to eliminate someone, as why to weaken yourself by taking someone out while you could just hoard these troops and stay as the strongest player. Nobody attacks you anyways, so unless you don't want for the game to stalemate. Differently than in progressive, in fixed cards it's usually not really worth to take someone out because the cards you get don't match the value of the troops you lose. So if nobody in the beginning of the game ends up being weak enough to be worth taking out for the cards, then with the players just hoarding their troops and not really making any attacks to not give the advantage for the players who would stay outside the conflict, the game kinda stagnates. So then the game could really become about the patience. You just wait till some players start annoying each other and not being satisfied getting succeeded on, or if everyone pretty much stay passive, then you just wait for some players to start disconnect. Eventually someone will get bored or will have to go, so they will quit the game. But getting back to the point, now with 3 big continent players being in the game, the pink player won't appear to be that much powerful. And while I know that I won't start a conflict, the pink and green players might eventually decide to attack each other, invading each other into their continents. Or that's possible that someone from these big continent players decides to invade me, but if so, then I probably wouldn't encourage the conflict to the point where another player overestimating his abilities suicide on me without even realizing it. So if I get invaded into Africa by pink, then probably I wouldn't waste my troops to invade him back into Europe, as with Africa having 3 borders it would be impossible to prevent pink from invading it anyways. So then I would just probably continue turtling in South America, putting my troops to one big army on Brazil. If you're wondering why I don't capture any territories, is because I see that the yellow player is trying to expand to Asia, so I don't want to annoy him by crushing his army of 3 troops. I don't want that a player getting annoyed with me will start targeting me. And why it probably wouldn't appear that much of an issue currently, it could quite backfire me in case the yellow player ends up in a 3-player situation with me. So if I am fine with the yellow player having these territories and expanding to Asia, then eventually he might consider to eliminate black, or crush the Kamchatkan army of the green player, or basically go for whichever player who will start crushing his armies getting annoyed. And alright, after all the yellow player decides to invade me. And to be honest, that's a little bit surprising, considering I was the only person who let him expand to Asia, so I thought the yellow player would like me the most, but I was wrong. Well, the yellow player might not necessarily want to expand to Asia, but if so, then I'm not sure why he keeps saving these territories by putting some of the troops into them, as it doesn't increase his territorial troop bonus at all, and it could just irritate other players. That's possible that the yellow player might have seen me as a relatively passive player, so by predicting that I wouldn't really retaliate he might have wanted to see what happens if he invades me. Or all in all, he might have just been tired of the stalemating situation, so he decided to do something to change the things up, that the situation would potentially change. And while the green and pink players were properly guarding their borders against him, and while the black player was just putting all of his troops to one big army, the most reasonable option for him looked to invade me into Africa, as I wasn't really guarding it. And I mean, all in all, that attack neither ruined the game for both of us nor broke the balance of the game, so it was absolutely fine. So actually that might be a good thing, that the yellow player is trying to do something else rather than keep turtling like all of the other players. That attack to invade me into Africa could have encouraged someone to start targeting me as well, so it might then have some initiative by the yellow player that he would be willing to attack someone, as remembering the beginning of the game he invaded the pink player into Europe as well, but with nobody helping him out, he obviously stopped. But all in all, it's just my predictions on what the yellow player possibly planned. The only player who knows what the yellow player wanted to achieve is the yellow player himself, so we can just speculate. And with him being a low-ranked player, it could be even harder to guess, as sometimes low-ranked players make very random moves. Anyways, after the yellow player invaded me, as you saw, the pink player didn't do anything for the entire turn, so the bot took over him, which crushed the rest of my two African borders, and then invaded the green player into North America, crushing a bigger army of him. Then the pink player got back to the game, but with the green player probably not realizing that the pink player was taken by the bot, the green player invaded him into Europe to retaliate. Which probably wasn't the best idea, considering the green player was twice as weak as the pink player and not even having any troops to guard his Kamchatkan border anymore, which the pink player could have easily invaded if he just wanted. But he didn't, so the green player stayed having North America, as no other player had considered to invade him either. I mean, everyone avoids making enemies to not give the advantage to those who would stay outside the conflict. Nobody wants to do the dirty work, which could help the game to get out of the stalemating situation, as one thing, the diplomacy could really matter playing in public lobbies with the players who could possibly not knowing much about the balance of the game could over-attack you, ruining the game for both of you, or getting more emotional to suicide on you on purpose. And then another thing, the fixed cards don't really encourage to waste your troops on attacking someone, so why to attack someone and weaken yourself when the players who do nothing would just hoard their troops, ending up in an advantage? So at the end, the pink player stayed good after retaliating to the pink player. Though while the pink player doesn't consider to easily invade the green player through the Asian border, he still keeps building a big army on the green's Icelandic army, but without really fortifying other armies on it from other borders. So I guess the pink player just wants to recapture Europe but not to invade the green player into North America, or if he actually does, then it's a little bit weird that he didn't take the opportunity back then when the green player didn't have any troops on his Kamchatkan border. But yeah, as you can see, the green player has moved his army back to Kamchatka, so I assume everything with the green and pink players might be good again, with the same stalemating situation getting back again before the pink player disconnecting back then. Or who knows, maybe the pink player will actually build his Icelandic army big enough to invade the green player once he has enough troops. We are going to see how it will be. I mean, the balance of the game could be perfectly sustained with only 3 players, so in a 5-player situation they're even to a necessary player who could get eliminated with the game continuing going fine. And while there are even 2 unnecessary players, nobody really wants to show the initiative to attack someone, as by wasting troops that player will probably end up being one of these weaker players, who would be destined to get eliminated next, so nobody wants to risk it. Or if the opponents are low ranked, then they might not realize that, but regardless of that they still know that the turtling could be one of the best strategies, that to annoy someone by attacking him could be a bad idea which could ruin the game for them. So whichever the case is, the players know that the turtling is usually the safest choice in the situation like this one, and with the players like these who at first sight might appear to be very passive, but if you decided to attack them, then they would obviously retaliate or might even suicide on you. So a match really becomes the game of patience, on who has the most patience to stay in the game the longest without neither suiciding or quitting. So with a possibility of someone suiciding, it's better not to annoy anyone at all, as if a player decides to suicide, then he will probably do that on a person who he didn't like the most. Like the green player probably doesn't really like the pink player, so I would guess he would suicide on him in case he is the type of player to suicide when getting annoyed with the game. The green player having initial 10 troops army on my border doesn't continue adding any of the troops next to me at all, so I guess he really appreciates me, while keeps adding his troops on 2 of his other borders, so I guess he is still not very satisfied that the pink player invaded him before, and then probably doesn't have that much trust in the black and yellow players either. As you can see, I don't guard the border against the green player at all. I show him a really big trust in him, so while I don't add any troops on his border, he doesn't see any need to add any troops on my border as well. As you can see, I built a big army on Brazil, so I could retaliate to the green player at any moment if he suddenly decided to invade me. And having one big army while not really guarding your borders might discourage other players from invading you. As at one hand they know that they could easily invade you, but on the other hand they wouldn't like to risk it because they know that your big army could be used on crushing them. If you just keep your army blocked, then your opponents might see that you won't cause any problems for them, so they might just leave you alone focusing on other players. As you can see, I didn't put any troops on the green's border, he didn't put any of them either, and when the pink player continued strengthening his border against green, the green player kept adding his troops on pink's border. Though not always it will work like this, as you can see the pink player still keeps strengthening his border next to me even though I don't guard it against him at all. He has the most of the troops on his Western Europe border currently, so that actually could indicate me that he doesn't trust me the most, who knows, but it seems that he doesn't even that much intimidated by the black player's big army next to his border, and it seems he doesn't that much care about the green player anymore either. Though he might have just added the most of troops on the territory of the Western Europe unintentionally without really thinking about it, he might just try to equalize all of his 4 armies in overall. Anyways, as you see, the yellow player has invaded me again. I'm not sure why, but maybe that's good, because it lets me know that he possibly doesn't really like me, whatever the reason it could be. Well, maybe he not necessarily dislikes me, but all in all he is showing that he would mostly want to attack me over any other player. And with me knowing that, it would be the best if he didn't end up in a 3-player situation with me, as with him wanting to attack me, I would be disfavored the diplomacy-wise comparing if there wouldn't be the yellow player in a 3-player situation. As he mostly wants to attack me. Obviously the best players to end up in a 3-player situation would be the green and pink players. The green player really trusts me, while probably wouldn't really appreciate the pink player that much since he was invaded by him back then, well, by his bot, but the green player might have not realized that, but either way the pink player still was invaded by green back then, so it doesn't really matter. And all in all, the green player would definitely be my pick number 1 if I could decide which player to bring into a 3-player situation with me. He is the only player who gives me good vibes. The yellow player obviously gives me bad vibes by invading me into Africa, and the pink and black players are mostly neutral. Though if I had to choose between pink or black to bring to a 3-player situation, then I would prefer to choose the pink player. The pink player makes his moves quite slow, while the black player quite fast, and usually the faster the player makes his turns, the more experienced he is. He immediately knows what he wants to do and it doesn't require much of the time for him to plan his next move. But if I saw that there could be some potential struggle to sustain the balance of the game, then I would keep a black player over pink. And all in all, it could be really dependent on who would be another player and what continents all of us would have. Like, if the green player ended up in a 3-player situation when I would obviously prefer to keep pink, then I would just move to Australia, and with them both having big continents, we'll just leave them deal with themselves. But if the yellow player ended up in a 3-player situation, then I would probably prefer the black player the most, as I would guess he would be the player who is the most reasonable with the balance of the game, to help out others if needed, and not to foolishly overattack another player. Though it's just my prediction judging by his stats and by the way he makes his moves, and I could be absolutely wrong on that, who knows. Anyways, as you can see, the situation we're in is very stalemated. We have been repeating the same moves for a while now. So I think nothing will really change until someone finally leaves the game getting bored of it. Though there might be a possibility that the green player will decide to eliminate black. The green player keeps building a big army on the territory of Kamchatka, which is the most likely to be used on black, or maybe yellow. As if he wanted to attack me, then he would strengthen his Central American border, and if he wanted to attack pink, then he would put a lot of troops on his Icelandic border. But yeah, the pink player still keeps being as a likable possibility for the green player to attack. From the most likable players which the green player could decide to attack, I would say that the black player is in the first place, then the pink player, then yellow, and then finally I would say that I will be the least likable player the green player would decide to attack. I think if nobody disconnects, then it will really be what the green player decides to do. As the yellow player is a big turtle, I am the big turtle as well, and the black player is obviously forced to be a big turtle having no continent at all. And the pink player adds the troops on all of his borders equally, and it doesn't seem that he will be looking to have any problem either. Though I think there could be some possibilities that either the pink or black player could suddenly decide to invade me into Africa. Anyways, with the yellow player turn by turn combining his armies into a big one, I assume he won't be the turtling player anymore and is about to do something. And I perfectly remember that the last bigger attacks he was making was to invade me into Africa, so obviously I won't unleash his army. I will rather not attack a territory at all rather than unleash his army, risking of my troops getting crushed, or even getting suicided on by him. The yellow player's fortification choice is really giving me bad feelings. He fortified his army to the territory of India, so even though the yellow player in his turn took down a lot of territories of green, the green player still actually is the safest with him being cut from yellow's army. If the yellow player wanted to attack green, then obviously he would have fortified his army next to his border rather than to India. Then if he wanted to eliminate the black player, I would say that he would have rather fortified his army to China rather than India. So with the yellow player fortifying his army to India, I would say the most likable players for him to attack is me and pink. But then taking into the account that the yellow player wanted to prevent me from holding Africa, all in all the most likable player for him to attack is unfortunately me. And yeah guys, I think I'm getting suicided on. But oh wow, that's awesome. The yellow player actually crushes an army of the pink player after invading me into Africa. And now to access me he would need to crush one more the pink player's army, so I think I should be good. And that's right, with along crushing another pink player's army which wouldn't unleash the way towards me, the yellow player ends up suiciding on the green player. And actually I think it's very good that he destroyed himself, crushing his troops on multiple different players rather than one concrete one. As with the yellow player quitting, the game has not been ruined for anyone, everyone stays in the game and has decent chances to win. Well, the pink player is the weakest one now since the yellow player wasted the most of troops on him, but he is still alive and actually not miles away from the green and black players, at least not significantly. And if he holds Europe, then he should surpass the black player the troop-wise. It seems that the pink player was quite slow taking the yellow player out and could have actually run out of time if the yellow player had some more territories. So if you guys haven't turned the camera animations off in the settings yet, then definitely do it, as the speed disadvantage you have could be very visible. And when there it could not that much matter when there are still a lot of players in the game. At the endgame it could be very significant if you end up with as a strong player as you. And with the yellow player getting eliminated, here are the new odds for each player to win based on their winning rate. At this point of the game there are only 4 players left, so I could try to eliminate either pink or black to get to the 3-player situation. As you know, the balance of the game could be perfectly sustained with only 3 players. However, that would not necessarily solve the problem of the game stalemating. I could get rid of one of the players, but the same stalemating situation could still stay with nobody seriously wanting to attack anyone. So basically I would just waste my troops bringing myself into disadvantage. Now I'm the strongest player, but after eliminating someone I would end up being the weakest one. And with the situation stalemating, probably it would still end up either by someone suiciding or quitting. And more likely for me to get suicided on by someone if I'm the weakest, rather if I were the strongest. And then assuming in that 3-player situation someone disconnects, then by being the weakest I would automatically lose to that another player who is still in the game. So it doesn't sound that much of as a great idea. So I will rather keep hoarding the troops in a 4-player situation being the strongest, so I would have the advantage over 2 other players when one of these 3 players finally disconnects. And it might have just happened. I'm not sure yet, but I know the green player's move was made by a bot with him running out of time. I remember the pink player ran out of time not doing anything for the entire turn back then as well. So it's possible that the green player had to go from the device as well and could come back in a turn or few as well. I don't know. But that's possible that he just either had to go, or just got bored with the game and decided to go. Or maybe his device ran out of battery. But we are going to see how it is. I mean whether the green player comes back to the game or not. And if the green player actually quit, then the black player probably isn't in the best position the diplomacy-wise, because right before the green player quit he invaded me into Africa, and the pink player into Europe. So in case I as the strongest player will be needed to get attacked, then the pink player might not be willing to help out the black player that much. And as you can see, the green player's bot is really helping me out so far. He crushed pink's 35 troops army, leaving its troops in Europe and preventing the pink player to recapture it back. So unless the pink player would like to take these green troops down, which probably wouldn't be that much of a great idea, because then I would just probably eliminate him from the game. The bots don't really count towards the balance of the game because it's always easy to beat them after you deal with your real opponents, so unless you would be basically dead. But whichever the case is, in a 3-player situation 2 real players will always go after each other, leaving the bot alone. So basically the pink and black players are my only real opponents, which I should pay all the attention to, while not targeting the green bot, as I would be able to beat him easily as long as I successfully deal with the pink and black players. So what I do for now is just keep getting stronger and hoarding my troops until my opponents finally decide to attack me. I mean, I'm getting more troops than both of them combined, so it's better to hoard troops and not get into the conflict with them as long as possible, as long as I'm able to hold South America and Africa. Well, actually I get only 1 more troop than them, and while I trade in a set once, they trade in a set twice combined. So in regards of that is actually bad for me, because it leads them of catching me up. But we also need to remember that there is a green bot in the game which might crush some of the pink players' armies. As you can see, even after getting invaded and not being able to recapture Europe whatsoever, the pink player keeps having his troops in 3 different armies, so the bot is definitely going to crush them if he doesn't combine them, and additionally these pink players' armies work like a shield for me to protect Africa. So I'm not sure if the pink player even realizes that, as with me being the strongest he should definitely not help me out, but differently, make it harder for me to hold something. As all in all the green player himself isn't in the game anymore, so it's up to him pink and black to stop me, and the pink player if not wanting to attack me, he could just move these armies away from Africa making the green bot the way to invade it. And wow, that's just awesome. I really like the way my opponents and the bot play. They're setting me perfect circumstances to win. The pink player just keeps his armies in the way that the bot could just crush them, and the bot obviously crushes them. And then additionally the green bot is blocking the black player from getting cards, and in the territory which is unleashed to the black player's army, in the territory of China, the bot has even 40 troops army. So the black player could only get out by fortifying his army to India, as obviously to crush the green player's 40 troops army in order to attack me would be a very bad idea as it would make me so much easier to eliminate him from the game. Anyways, with the pink player finally stopping to protect Africa, and actually taking it from me, it's the best time for me to eliminate him. Especially with him having 4 cards, so I would get some of my troops compensated. And it seems that I have more troops than both of my real opponents combined, so I can really afford to eliminate the pink player for sure, and then set up my troops in the way to eliminate black while still possibly holding South America with Africa. So I'm just really going to see what the black player does. In case he fortifies his army next to me, then obviously I will blitz it, but if not, then I will still try to increase my advantage so it would be easier to deal with the green bot. I know that with the pink player getting eliminated, the black player could decide to fortify his army to the territory of India at any time, so obviously I need to prepare and put a lot of troops to the territory of the Middle East. So I would be immediately ready to blitz his army as soon as he fortifies it. I need to get the attacker's advantage but not to give it to him. As otherwise if he attacks my troops first, then the things could go wrong for me. From a winning situation I could end up being in a losing one. As actually there is not a significant the troops difference we have, and by getting a very favorable blitz roll, he could actually surpass me making me lose, so I don't want for that to happen. But as long as he keeps being passive, I will just keep increasing my advantage, so it would be very easy to deal with the bot. And actually as long as the black player lets me getting stronger, I might take the green bot first giving the black player the second place, but only if he keeps turtling in Australia being blocked. As in case I see that he becomes a threat for me, then obviously I won't risk it and eliminate him first, as obviously I'm playing to win. And this game is unranked anyways, so it doesn't really matter. So I would just like to show a nice gesture to the black player if possible by eliminating the player who quit first. I was thinking about capturing North America right now, but actually not. Firstly I need to really strengthen my Middle East army, because the black player could fortify his army to India at any time, so I need to be prepared to eliminate him in a single turn if so. And as you can see he just fortified his army next to me, so obviously I need to blitz it to get the attacker's advantage. I don't want the game to suddenly flip over and lose the game in case he would get a very favorable blitz roll. I mean not necessarily he would win the game then, but then the green bot could win instead of me. So obviously with him not wanting to get the second place, as then he would have just simply eliminated the bot instead of fortifying his army next to me, I eliminated him from the game. And now I'm going to show how easy it is to deal with the bot. As you can see the bot has more troops than me, but that's not a problem at all. Because the bot doesn't even understand that it would be a great idea to invade me into my unguarded continents. Like literally North America isn't even guarded, and through invading it the bot could invade South America too. So the bot just lets me get those big continental troop bonuses for a no good reason. Then instead of capturing as many territories as possible, the bot just captures a few of them letting me get a big territorial troops bonus too. and then finally the bot keeps splitting its troops to multiple different armies for a no good reason either. It's inefficient, as besides unnecessary blocking some of his troops, it's much more easier for me to crush multiple armies, rather than if he had one big one. It lets me get the attacker's advantage, and then with the bot splitting his armies like crazy, it lets him capture fewer territories in general. So all in all, I would always prefer to have a bot in the endgame rather than a novice ranked player. At the time of saying it, it's much more easier to beat expert bots than novice ranked players. The expert bots, even if having a big advantage, quickly waste it because they let you hold multiple unguarded continents when they could just simply invade them. If you guys enjoyed watching this video, then I would recommend checking some of these out as well. Highly improve your skills by simply watching Risk videos.